Hello again, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of I'm so glad to be here. I'm hoping that you're glad to be here. I know that it's been a little while since I uploaded, but that means that I have a lot of content to cover, and I'm very excited to tell you all the things that I'm going to tell you today. And with that said, let's get straight into it. Have you ever experienced the gnawing feeling of the need to be perfect in everything? And I'm not talking about, like getting perfect scores and stuff like that on exams, but like having the perfect diet, having the perfect habits, being the perfect friend, like just holistically trying to be a perfect person. And no matter how much people tell you that being perfect isn't human, you still have that desire. Maybe I'm just projecting, but I've been feeling a lot of that lately. And it's kind of something that I wanted to talk about because I think it's something that a lot of people my age and in my position struggle with. So I kind of wanted to give you guys my 2 cents on that, talk about what it means to struggle with perfectionist ideals because lately it seems that is the only thing plaguing my mind. First, I'm definitely going to talk about social media's impact on it because I think that having so much access to social media and growing up in an era where everything is posted online, everything's documented, everything's recorded permanently, I think it's put a lot of pressure on people's shoulders to try and be perfect and try and encapsulate what it means to be a perfect person. And what I mean by this specifically is every time I open my phone and I scroll on Instagram or something like that, I don't have TikTok, but people who scroll on TikTok, I'm sure you're met with perfect faces, perfect people. And I remember when I started to follow people like this online, it was more so not because I envied their life, but because of motivation. I wanted my life to reach these standards and I wanted to be like this type of person, and not in a I hate myself type of way, but in a way where I want to aspire to be better. Because, kind of a sidebar, I think that a lot of people, especially now, are becoming too comfortable. I think that someone can't be like, oh, I want to be more fit or I want to go to the gym without them being seen as hating themselves. Like, everything is accept yourself, accept every flaw you have. And while yes, I do think it's important to accept certain flaws, I do also think that it's important that people try to be better because otherwise you're staying stagnant in this weird space because you don't like the flaws, so you're just sitting there being told to accept them even though you don't like them. And I feel like if you don't like something, you have every right to change it within reason. Um, Going back to the social media thing, I feel like I was often so inspired by these people and wanted to live the lives that they're leading. And because of that, a lot of times I find myself disappointed when my life isn't aligning with the way that their lives are leading, if that makes sense. I always wanted to go to college. That's one big thing. I've always wanted to go to school, and so many people online made it seem so easy, like the process, paying for college, filling out applications, getting into the college, like the college in your university that you wanted to get into. All of it seems so easy online, and suddenly I'm tackling it myself, and it is not so easy. And that goes for a lot of different things in my life, like relationships and having best friends and trying to hold those type of relationships, family relationships. That's another big thing. I think a lot of families try really hard to have an outward perception that, they have a perfect family. You have the home, you have the kids, every kid's an athlete, a scholar. A lot of people try and, uphold that image. And more often than not, and I was having this conversation with one of my friends, a lot of times the people that have the most, beautiful image of a family are the ones that have the most broken homes. And it's very difficult to try and continue that, that image if it's not true at its core. And I think that goes for a lot of things. And specifically, it goes with being like a person. Like, sometimes I feel like I'm projecting someone that I'm not. And it's not that I'm trying to be a liar or trying to act a way that I'm not. It's just that in certain situations you have to act differently and you have to act maturely in different situations. And a lot of times I'm not very mature. I like to be silly, but you can't always be silly all the time. Everything has a time and place. But I think it causes a lot of internal tension, trying to be this perfect person or come off as this perfect person. Because I can't even lie, I'm a very flawed person. I make a lot of mistakes. I do a lot of dumb things sometimes, and I hurt people. I hurt people sometimes, and I don't mean to, and I certainly don't want to, but it happens, and I'm cognizant of it, and I try to work on it. But it still happens, and I think that coming off perfect or trying to come off perfect all the time is so draining. I think about this a lot in high school. When I was in high school, I tried so hard to be the perfect student, to be the perfect athlete. And especially when it came to my athletics, I'm a very fit person. I like to be in the gym and I like to work out and I like to move my body. But in a team sports setting, I'm just not very good. In lacrosse, I was able to hold my own ground and I was able to play decently and better than some of the kids on my team, no lie, but I still wasn't competing at the top level. And I guess I have to be gentle with myself considering the fact that I only played for 4 years and some of these kids have been playing their whole lives. But still, it's like I'm trying so hard to be perfect and it's not enough. And I think that I have to come to the understanding that it's not enough. It's just that being perfect isn't attainable. But there's a fine line between, like I said earlier, trying your best to be perfect and just trying to be better. Because trying to be better and trying to like get to that level of perfection within reason and logic, it makes sense and it's worthwhile, I think. It's what inspires me to be better. But when it corrupts you and it gets so like engraved inside of like your essence, I think that it causes a lot of problems, so to speak. So I definitely think that when it comes to like seeing things online and growing up in an era where everything is, documented, why wouldn't you want to be perfect? You make a mistake and it's online, everyone's seeing it. It's not like you're at a party in the 90s and you get drunk and make a mistake, people hear about it around campus, but that's it. Here, the whole world, like you go viral, like that Coldplay concert. I am not condoning cheating by any means. I don't think that's a good thing. I hate it. I hate it in everything. Complete disclaimer. But imagine like making a mistake like that and you're viral. Like the whole planet knows about the mistake you made. Like there's no coming back from that. Maybe there was an opportunity for, making up with the spouses and, maybe fixing things and keeping your job and getting things figured out. People make mistakes, I'm not justifying cheating, but people make mistakes. But now there's no chance for that. You're screwed for life, most likely, because that's insane. That's insane. They got fired from their jobs. They lost their spouses, lost everything to their names over the Jumbotron. Like, isn't that nuts? I mean, things have a way of working out, but sometimes I feel like due to modern technology, there's no room for error. And without room for error, how are we supposed to grow, If we're just trying to be perfect and we all come off as perfect, are we even human at that point? To err is to be human. And it's just so crazy. I don't even know what to like say about that, you know what I mean? Even though I just talked about it for like 8 minutes. I think another thing for me that has made me really feel the need to be perfect is the older sibling complex. I'm the oldest sibling out of four, and from a very young age, I knew that I had to be the example for my brothers. And it's part and due to my parents. I'm not saying they're the reason that I strive for perfection, but they are the reason that I strive to be a role model. Because from a young age, that's what I was told. Like, your brothers look up to you, and you have to be an example, and you have to make the right decisions. You have to just think about that. And I think that in many ways that has benefited me personally, and it's benefited them, because not only did they have someone to look up to, but I also was cognizant of my own decisions. So the decisions that I make aren't gonna, be irrational and nuts because I have three little kids looking up to me. But I think, especially in high school and especially recently, I think that I've taken that to the extreme and I've deprived myself of opportunities that I've wanted or life experiences that I've wanted for the sake of keeping up the perfect image because I have people looking up to me and my brothers, they mean the world to me and I don't want them to feel as though they have a letdown of an older brother. I want to be the best that I can, and I just want to find the balance between being a role model and, being human and being an 18-year-old college student. Because I know college is going to bring so much chaos, but gotta stay locked in. Gotta keep my blinders on. Otherwise, what's the point of me being there? And that's another thing. This weekend was my grad party, and it was amazing. I had so much fun. It was very, very stressful. 3 days leading up to it were probably the most stressful I've had in a very, very long time. And it was even worse for my parents. They barely slept. They're always looking out for me. They're awesome. My whole family's awesome. But a lot of remarks that I got at my grad party, not like negative or anything, but were like, stay on the right path and don't make bad decisions because college is a place where you can make a lot of bad decisions. I have always been someone that's been very steadfast in my goals. And I was talking about this with my best friend again. I was saying how I just don't want to get distracted and I don't want to get taken off, course. And he was like, you're someone who's so devoted to everything and everything you commit your mind to. Like, you'd rather suffer through it and finish it than actually, like quitting or like getting distracted. And while I agree, and I definitely want to stay steadfast because if I'm paying for school, which is expensive, obviously I'm gonna, focus on my academics and getting the degree. It just takes one thing. It only takes 1 second for you to make a mistake that can change your life. And I'm just anxious about that. I know that if I stay on the right path and hang out with the right people and put myself in the right positions, it's going to be very difficult for me to, get into that. I think it'll be easier if I just keep my head on straight. If I just keep my head on straight, then I think that I can stay on the right path. But there's always that little bit of me that's a little nervous and a little scared about it because, you know, anything can happen. Anything can happen. One thing that I think about a lot is getting into a relationship in college because I'm already I'm locked. Like this year specifically, my freshman year of college is going to be my lock-in year. Like I got a little distracted with a bunch of clubs, sports, all the things at school, in high school, but in college I want to be focused on my academics and I have a rigorous schedule set for when I'm going to the gym, when I'm going to study, when I'm going to eat, when I'm going to, be in class, everything. I want to be very committed to it. And I was thinking to myself, where am I fitting relationships into this? Because I feel like friendships, good friendships, especially in college, I want to be friends with people who understand that I'm not constantly available to go to parties and stuff because I am getting a job. I have to pay for stuff. I'm going to be a busy person academically, scholastically, extracurricularly, and in the workplace, and I want to set myself up for my future. So I'm not always going to be able to party and have, hangouts and stuff. But I could get away with that with friends. Having friends that aren't always, able to socialize every second of the day. But what about a partner? You know what I mean? Being in a relationship, a romantic relationship, is so demanding in the sense that you have to put a lot of care and effort into a relationship. And I believe in that strongly. I wouldn't want to be, I think of it almost like a plant. You can't let the plant, unless it's one of those plants that don't need much care, but you can't really leave a flower in the windowsill and never water it, never trim it, never take care of it. It'll die. And I think that relationships are the same way. They require constant care, even though it's not always the most difficult. Sometimes it is very difficult, but they just need care. And I worry that if I put myself in a position to be so academically focused and focused on my career and all the things like that, I'm not going to have as much of an opportunity to develop a relationship. So I'm a little nervous in regards to that, but I think I'm getting ahead of myself because there's no indication of me getting into a relationship anytime soon. Even though I do plan to go on dates for the first time, because I don't go on dates because I think I used to think they were scary, but I'm open to it now. Come get me, guys. Those are just my general concerns, I guess. Again, I'm just going with the perfectionism thing because life isn't perfect. My schedule won't be perfect, and here I am, planning for the most ideal, perfect situation. I'm crazy. I do hope to get into more leadership positions though while we're in college because I really enjoyed being a leader in high school, even though it was demanding and there was a lot of pressure on me and, a lot of weight on my shoulders. I still liked it. I had a lot of fun. I like leading a team and having people look up to me for answers. And if I don't have the answers, I'm so transparent and I love to just go find them. I just love leading. And I think that's something that I want to continue to do in college. It's just, I saw how it played out for me in high school and how it kind of took control of my life, trying to be the best person that I could be. But I still like it, and I still like the feeling I get when I can successfully lead a team somewhere. And it's not about power or control, it's just I like to have an idea, execute it, and have people help me reach those goals. One thing I talk about a lot in college, going to college, is humanitarian aid. I do want to do so much humanitarian aid, especially because my major is international politics. I would love to go to different countries, see how they live, see what their political systems are like, help people who need the help because there's so much help to be given. But I don't know, I think it'd be cool to lead a team there or do something like that. I don't know. My college has a lot of opportunities, lots of different clubs, over 1,000 clubs actually. So I'm sure I'll find opportunities to lead. Another thing though about leading and perfectionism and all the things like that, I think it's made me feel so guilty about making mistakes, and it's so like I'm all over the place like talking about this topic, but I'm very passionate about the topic, which is why I want to talk about it so much. I feel like there's just no room for error. And we talked about that with the social media stuff, but I'm also now talking about that when it comes to making mistakes in front of people who are watching. I feel when you are leading a team and you make one mistake, especially, I hate to like be that type of person, but it is true. Like being a minority and being a minority in different ways, you know, it could be your race, it could be, your if you're disabled or your sexuality, all those things like people who are put in those situations who aren't like the gold standard of being a human, you're looked on 10 times more seriously. Like it's harder to get jobs, it's harder to get experience, it's harder for people to be accepting and understand because a lot of times people have antiquated thoughts about, people in minority groups, and it's not fair, it's not just. We know this, yet we still, we live like it, and it's kind of just something how our world is, and we can't complain about it all the time. All we have to do is, move forward and try to find ways around it. But it still sucks that like you can't make a mistake. And I don't want to sound like I'm saying only minority groups go through this, because that's not true. Everyone can go through it. I was just using that as an example. But it's hard sometimes when you're being looked on with all the eyes in the world, and you make a mistake and you feel like suddenly you're nothing. There's been multiple times in high school where I felt like that, where I've been leading people or I've been just part of something and I make one mistake and suddenly my mistake is so much more severe than anyone else's mistake prior. And it sucks. It definitely sucks. It's demoralizing and it makes you feel like you can't keep going. But I think with time and maturity, I realized that you're going to let everyone down at some point. And I felt that a lot with my closest friendships, with my family. Everyone will let you down sometime, and you will let everyone down. And that's just kind of something you have to accept. And I used to think about that a lot when it came to like romantic and platonic relationships and who I wanted in my life. When I saw a red flag, I'd be like, nope, we're done. We got to go. But I think that this red flag culture has made people feel like you have to be perfect, and that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm talking about, guys. You have to be perfect, and nothing's fair because you can't be perfect. Like, you shouldn't judge someone based off of a mistake they made. I mean, given some people can make some pretty bad mistakes, and therefore you should be judged very severely for those mistakes. But some mistakes, no one's perfect. People make mistakes, and I try to be forgiving in every aspect of my life because of that. Because not everyone's going to make the best decisions every time, and not everyone is going to, have the best thought. I remember being younger, I was a kid. I made a lot of stupid mistakes as a kid because I didn't understand, the consequences of my mistakes. Now I'm older, I understand that I would have never done something like that. And I think it's murky water because we can't say we're going to forgive everyone for their mistakes because some mistakes are completely unforgivable. But I think that humanity could use a little bit more kindness, giving more of a benefit of the doubt. I feel like everything's so severe, and I've talked about this in my political episode, but everything is so polarized. There's no reaching across the aisle. Everything's black and white. That's all it is. And it's so difficult to, live in a world like that because it's just rough. Now, I've decided that with these episodes, I want to make them a little bit more formulaic, and I want to talk about different things at different times. So that first section was more so about the topic at hand, right? Like introducing you, like holding your hand, like getting you into it. Second section, I want to talk about like media references and how things I've seen, whether it be TV, books, music, like anything that's like pertinent to the topic. So with that said, I'm going to talk about two different movies, both of which I've watched in the past 2 days. Great movies, by the way. I definitely recommend you watch them. I am going to say like a spoiler alert because while I want to talk about the movie and kind of like movies, both of them, and kind of, edge you into watching it, I also can't get my point across without talking about the plot of the movie. So the two movies are called Whiplash and K-Pop Demon Hunters. Go watch them now or at some point, and I'm going to talk about them now. So starting with Whiplash, that movie was so beautifully put together, and it was such a psychological. I think that the movie's called a psychological thriller. I think that's what the genre is, because it was very like mental. Like I like movies that make me think and that make me like question humanity and like the way that we are and why we do the things that we do. But that movie was ahead of its time. It came out in 2014, and basically the whole premise of the movie follows this drummer who's in college. He's a freshman, and he's an excellent drummer. Like he's amazing, and he gets scouted out by like one of the prestigious band direct conductors in the school, and he is a complete asshat. Like he's terrible, like as abusive as it gets, pretty much, like literally hitting the kids. So make of that what you will, but the whole movie is like talking, not talking, but like showing you how obsession and like the pursuit of perfection can lead to like insanity and the loss of oneself. He starts off fairly like well-rounded. Like he's doing good in school. He's great at the drums. Obviously, he's better than everyone in his band because he's in like a lesser band right now. And he's just asked this girl out on a date. Like everything's going well for him, except for like the relationship with his family. But I'm sure that had a reason. That had like a cause into like his insanity as well. But as the movie progresses and as he joins the band, he starts to divert all his focus, like the good band. He starts to divert all his focus onto like being the best drummer that he possibly could be, and he's obsessed with his idol, Buddy Rich, I think is his name, and that's what it comes down to. Like he just ends up pursuing this and pursuing this, and the big thing that you can see all the time is that his hands are constantly bleeding. I can't quite put it into words right now, but I think that there's huge symbolism in that because by the end of the movie, he ends up kind of abandoning everything else. He abandons the girl he was going on a date with. He kind of abandons his schooling. He abandoned his family because there's a point toward at the very end of the movie where he's in a crossroads and he either has to take the side of his family or go back on stage. And he goes back on stage, and I think that's symbolic of him, leaving behind the last thing that he knew. And then he performs a solo, and then he finally gets the approval of this band teacher. But it's like at what cost? Because again, his hands were bleeding, and I feel like in a way that's like symbolic of his humanity leaving him in the pursuit of perfection. And I think that's like the whole point of the movie, that to be perfect is not human. It's you lose yourself and you lose your soul when you become obsessed with the idea of being perfect. And it's because of that I feel like that movie was not a happy ending. Like the ending, he got what he wanted, but was it happy? Like he lost everything in the process to get this one thing, and I think that was enough to just show that it was a cautionary tale and not necessarily, you know, a good ending, a happy ending. The ending was like good. Like the movie was amazing. I definitely recommend you check it out. But I think it's more of a cautionary tale than anything. And it's funny because I feel like in a way it mirrors a conversation I once had with my mom. Because I was saying to her, how am I supposed to, give myself up completely to someone one day? But I'm so focused on my career. Like, in the state of mind that I am right now, I don't know if I'd be able to give up my career for someone. I don't think I could ever be with someone who would expect me to give up my career to be with them. Because I feel so passionately about what I want to do, and I want to make a change in the world. And I don't know if that makes me selfish, but it makes me think a lot, because it's like relationships call for so much compromise and so much sacrifice, and I don't know if that's something I'm willing to sacrifice, because I feel like my life's calling is to help other people and to lead people into helping other people. And to deny myself of that would be like, I feel like it would be the same as like what the main character in the movie, Naaman, what he went through, because I'd be losing myself, but in the other direction. Like he went too far, I would be doing too little, and we wouldn't be in this happy medium here. And I think that would be terrible for me. So I think I just need to be with someone that wouldn't ask me to sacrifice that. I need to surround myself with people who wouldn't ask me to sacrifice my life's mission. But then again, I'm 18. I'm sure my life's mission is going to change thousands of times until the day I die. So there was just a lot of irony in that movie when it came to him pursuing his life, what it means to live, and dying along the way, metaphorically. So, and another thing, again, spoiler alert, one of, I don't even know if I can like say this online, but this is just me being blunt. One of the former students of that band teacher unalived himself, and people in his life and the principal and guidance counselors were saying that he started to slip into those tendencies after he was with the band teacher, like after he was in that band under the band teacher. So I think that in a way, Naaman's journey is talking about kind of how he was on the pursuit of happiness and also, died in a way, not physically, not literally, but I think his soul definitely took a hit if it wasn't, if it wasn't completely destroyed. I love imperfect characters too. I feel like in that movie specifically, every character was imperfect. And I just love a movie like that because I feel like it highlights the human experience. I hate reading books and watching movies or consuming media that there aren't imperfect characters because it's not human. One thing I think about a lot when I say that is the Hunger Games. Katniss is a very imperfect, narrator. She's unreliable. She's childish. She makes mistakes, and I think that's what makes her such a good, character and such a good leader because like she's acknowledged for her mistakes and accepted for them. And that's one thing that I like a lot in my own life. And so much to me when people can see me authentically for who I am and my irritability and my mania and the way that I act sometimes and my solitude stages that I go into and still love me for it and still accept me for it. So yeah, that's what I have for Whiplash. Great movie. Check it out. Next movie is K-pop Demon Hunters. I know you guys are gonna be like, "This is nuts." Like, why? You're like 3, because it is a kids movie. But you have to hear me out when I say that this movie was so good. I had seen it online, and I was like, looks like an interesting movie. And it's kind of like a musical. It's animated, but it's like a musical. And it basically follows these 3 singers, and basically they're tasked with defending the world from demons. And by singing and like bringing people together with their music, they create kind of like a barrier between the earth and where the demons live. And their whole mission is to make it golden. And if it becomes golden, the demons are cut off forever. So they keep making music. They're on a very successful career path. All of this is going on. Again, spoiler alerts, because I'm going to talk about the plot now. The way to tell that a demon is they have these markings on their body. And kind of a little bit into the movie, you realize that the lead singer, she has those markings too. And then you find out that she's half human, half demon. So the whole movie is kind of like her coming to terms with her imperfections and having to tell her friends, the other 2 singers, that she's a demon, and she struggles with it completely, and she starts to lose her voice because I guess the whole point of her losing her voice was that she was lying, and because she was lying she couldn't keep up the voice. Basically what happens in the demon world, this demon proposes to the king demon that they form a boy band and pretend to be humans and try and seal away the fans so they can seal away the energy and break that shield. And it works out, but then you find out that the lead singer of the band, I sound like nuts like talking about this movie, but trust me, it's so good. The lead singer in the boy band, you find out that he wasn't always a demon and he became a demon because of a decision that he made that impacted his soul, and he basically made a deal with the devil. And he has so much regret, and throughout the movie the lead singer and the boy band lead singer, they kind of come together and are trying to like form a better world, and it doesn't work out in the way that they wanted, and sacrifices are made, people are lost. But by the end of the movie, that lead singer realizes that it wasn't about being golden and being perfect. It was about like finding beauty in the truth and accepting that she's not perfect and that nothing about the situation and their world is perfect, so it shouldn't be. And the barrier that they create is not golden, it's like iridescent, and it's beautiful, and it's such a good movie. And I think that was so, you know, powerful because in many ways we are born with a lot of imperfections, and whether it be physically, emotionally, the way that we choose to live our lives, some of the predispositions that we genetically are in tune with, we spend a lot of our time trying to mask that and try and show the world that we're perfect. One thing, that motto that they have in the movie is, "We are hunters, voices strong. The world can't see our mistakes and faults," or something like that. And it just showed like that's just like how people live. And towards the end of the movie, you find out that not only does the lead singer have those insecurities with, her markings of being part demon, but the other two also have issues. The one of them is rejected from her family just because of her attitude, like the way she is. Like she's very like picture like Raven from Teen Titans. Like that's her vibe. So she's like that, and her family's just like the perfect family, and they just can't have like a black cat in the house. So, or the black dog. I think that's what it is. A black dog. Is that what it is? I don't know. And the other one, I really resonated with it because I feel like that's me sometimes. She thinks that she's just too much and not enough at the same time. And they're all insecure, but they all kind of come together and realize that it's not about perfection, it's about beauty and finding the beauty in the truth and in our mistakes. One thing unrelated to the movie, but what that made me think of is this Japanese art. It's called kintsugi. There's a song about it from Lana Del Rey. It's really good. Check it out. Basically, they take pottery and they break it, and then they put it together again, and they glue it back together with gold. So the cracks are like all lined with gold. You've probably seen it. Hopefully you've seen it. It's really beautiful art. But the whole point of it is there's beauty in the breaks. There's the breaks, it's beauty. There's beauty in the breaks. That doesn't make sense. There's beauty in the cracks, and, that's how you can see, like, the story behind something, because people have their mistakes and their cracks, but they've lived to tell the tale, and I think that's what makes being human so beautiful, is having those mistakes and, being accepted for them. I think that's a beautiful thing. Another thing that I think is very symbolic in that movie is the leader of the boy band, the lead singer, him being someone who is transformed into a demon. You don't really find out if all demons are this way, but he was human and he became a demon because of his decisions. And I think that's very symbolic of the fact that we all have demons within us. In the movie, the humans are always like, we hate the demons, we have to kill them all, like, they're terrible people. Meanwhile, these demons have feelings and emotions. And I'm not, like, really, I know that's, like, iffy subject to get into, like, I'm not very into, like, the demon lore, like, I try to live my life as kind as I can, and that's about all I can say, but in this movie, these demons have feelings, and, specifically this one, he made a mistake, and it ended up costing him his mortality, and I think that goes to show that we all have demons within us, and to deny it, and what she does, the lead singer for the girls, she denies it and she pushes it down, and it makes her lose her voice, and it just makes her worse off, honestly, than if she would have accepted who she was. So I think that's important to remember, that we all have those demons within us, and accepting one another for those mistakes and for those, shortcomings that we have, it's what makes us better people, and I think it's what makes us a better society. Now, sometimes I worry if we'll ever, find that catharsis where we all understand each other, because things just seem to be getting so much worse by the minute, but I just hope that one day we can all find peace. I know how I feel when I'm accepted for my mistakes and for my flaws and for my imperfections, so I try to live my life that way, but it makes me think, which is why I wanted to talk to you guys about it. And I was glad that I was able to get so much out, because I really did have so much to talk about. Now, final section, I do a little reveal of where I got my inspiration from. And for this episode, I kind of got it from my orientation at my college that I want to talk about a little bit. I went to orientation last week, and it was amazing. That's why I didn't post, because it was a really busy week, and I didn't have time to film, I didn't have time to edit, and I apologize for that, but it gave me a lot of perspective, and it gave me a lot of things to talk about, so I'm very happy to be here and talking about it. But I went to orientation, and the whole experience was really nice. I met a lot of amazing people. There is one person that I'm going to talk about, because I just think the whole interaction was really funny and really sweet. I had just finished looking at this resource fair where they tell you about, like, not guidance, but, like, mental health services, international, travel and stuff like that, those type of things. Not clubs, but, like, the school services. And I was sitting down in the lobby by myself, and I was actually applying for jobs. And this kid comes up to me, and I don't like to assume, that I don't like to assume that people are, like, trying to interact with me, because it'd be embarrassing for me to, like, look up at them, like, in a weird way, and they're not even, like, talking to me. So I kind of just kept looking at my phone, but he was there for a little while, so I looked up, and he was like, "Are you Joshim?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was basically saying that he saw me the day before and he couldn't tell if it was actually me, so he checked out my Instagram and saw that I was going to this school, and he saw that I also have this podcast. We'll get back to that later. But basically, he followed me the day before, and I was like, I feel really bad because I've never seen this kid. I know I networked with a lot of people while I was there, but I don't remember seeing this kid. And he followed me, and I feel bad for not recognizing him. That was the kid. So when I saw him, I was like, this is that kid. So he said that he was bored the night before because you can basically opt to stay on campus for that day and like stay in the dorms, or you can stay off campus like with your parents or something. I stayed on campus and so did he. And his roommate just never showed up, so he had no one to talk to. So he decided to just watch my podcast, and I was like, that is so sweet and so nice of you. Like, what do you mean you're watching my podcast? So shout out to you. But basically, I have to get back to my point because all I do is get, distracted. But going back to my point, he kind of just talked to me and was, telling me about how he recognized me from DECA, the organization that I was in. And he was from a school, one of my officers, she was from there. And I was like, oh, that's how you recognize me. Because at first, I was like, how do you know my name and how to say it perfectly? Because everyone says my name incorrectly. It's kind of something that I've just grown to accept. But everyone just does, and he knew it right off the bat. And I was like, this is really, really weird. But he was so kind, and he was just so amazing. And it was just so nice, I don't really want to be recognized for who I was in high school because I'm not that same person anymore, I think. I've changed a lot since then. Even though it's been a few short months, I do feel like I'm in a different period of my life now. Um, it was nice to be recognized and to be recognized with such positivity because I'm a messy person and I've made a lot of mistakes, but it was nice to see someone, excited to see me. It felt nice and it made me feel really excited for college. And I texted him after orientation. I was like, hey, like if you ever want to hang out, like let's hang out because he just seemed really cool and it was really nice. And I kind of felt specifically with this situation, I could be, more authentic because it's different. It's a different setting. And I think I feel that way a lot about like going to college. Everything's new. Everyone's trying to make new friends. And it really let me put my guard down and I realized how much I used to be and tried to be perfect in every situation despite not having a need to, When I was back at home, I was trying to uphold a reputation and trying to be this person that everyone needed me to be. But specifically in this interaction and, with many of the interactions I had at the university, I could just be myself and I felt no pressure being myself, For example, my one roommate, the roommate that I had that night, we didn't really click. We're just two very different people. And in our orientation group, he was kind of talking to this group of guys and I talked to them for a little bit, but they just weren't really my crowd. So I walked alone and it was fine. Like I felt fine. Like a younger me would be like, oh, like I'm by myself and I have no one to talk to. But I was just walking by myself right behind the orientation leader and it was great. And then the orientation leader started to talk to me and he told me like his like story and like why he's here. He was from a different country and I just feel like I learned so much and I connected with someone that I never would have gotten the opportunity to connect with if I were down in the dumps about not, you know, being a part of the crowd. And it just meant a lot to me. And I think that that experience as a whole taught me a lot about, my individuality and how there's not a need to be perfect. There's just a need to be authentic and to be yourself. I think that's what I want people to take away from this episode, To be yourself is to be happy. And I think you are going to let people down and things are going to be rough, but it's worth it in the long run to be yourself and to live knowing that you experience life the way that you want it to and the way that you felt was the most true to yourself. And I don't know, that's kind of just what I wanted to get out. And I think that if we as a society can get more in tune with that and, try and focus less on our mistakes and more on what makes us beautiful and show that, I think that we could go a long way. And it makes me optimistic to think like that. I know it's optimistic. That's exactly what it is because it's hard for people to do that. It's easier said than done. And even with myself, it's hard for me to accept everyone's flaws because there are some things that I just perceive as unforgivable. But if you just take a second and think, I think, I think that a lot could be saved. A lot of people could be saved, and life could be better for a lot of people. So yeah, if you take nothing else away from this episode, embrace your imperfections. Try to judge people a little bit less. The world does not need more judgment, trust me. Yeah, I hope you guys are doing great. I'm very excited for the future, honestly. I just realized that I have a vacation in 12 days, and that week after that, I just go to college, and I didn't realize that summer had beaten me so quickly. But here we are. We're almost done, and I'm excited to start this next chapter of my life. I'm excited to bring you guys along for the ride. But yeah, I hope to bring those lessons with me to be a little bit more imperfect and to not be so hard on myself. In the end, all's well. Ah, I like that. I like that. I like that one. I think that's what we're gonna go with. Just the end. All's well. That ends well. And I hope that you guys can realize too that your imperfections don't make you less than. They make you stronger if you can learn to accept them. So I hope you guys have a good week. Hopefully I'll see you next week. I promise that I'm not slacking. I am slacking, unfortunately. I am slacking. But I am trying, and I am excited to talk to you guys more about topics like this. So have a good one.